FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and we've been following the price of gold. It's kind of been steady as she goes, drifting a little bit higher. Silver is back over $17 the ounce. Are we going to see the Q4, Q1 annual precious metals rally? We're all getting a little antsy over it, but in some cases, it really doesn't matter. Our sponsor company, Auryn Resources. If you don't know them, you should go take a look at the website immediately. That's Auryn, AURYN resources.com. They're also traded on the TSX under AUG and the NYSE under AUG. And we've got our good friend Ivan Bebek with us. Ivan, hey, it's good to connect with you again. And one thing I know for sure, when I talk with you, I'm going to learn something, and I'm going to hear news that I haven't heard before.
Awesome. It's great to be here, and I'm glad you get that from each interview we do. And we keep the candles burning on both ends here, and a lot of times you don't hear about it with press releases right away, but then we get a slew of them, and I promise you, there's been a lot of really exciting things happening for us since we last spoke. Oh yeah,
I saw your November 14th release about Curibaya. And it was pretty remarkable. I mean, the worst sample you had there, people would be digging holes and doing a mine almost right away after the necessary work, obviously. I mean, 114 grams per ton of silver, that in itself, and that was the worst sample you took.
Yeah, it's this project is truly something that is got everybody scratching their heads and saying, wow, this is something different. And, we first looked at it as something we wanted 4 years ago in Peru, and it took us time to get it. It was the other half of our Curibaya project. And the guys who had it before us were saying, take a hike, we've got a mine here. And, we were like, fine, we see your confidence, but we didn't really have much information on the project. And they ran out of money, as most good juniors do in bear markets. And we just happened to be able to pick it up from a hearing aid company in August that took over their shell or their entity. And when we got into it, we went out there in our typical fashion. We took 500 samples, and, you quoted the lowest grade being 114 grams. I mean, to date, there's been up to 14 kilo silver sampled, but what's really got everyone and gets us to this date, and I asked all of our technical guys what this means. There's about 16 or 17 samples running between 1 to 14 kilo silver. And this is spread over 4 by 4 square kilometers, so 16 square kilometers, right? And by model of what the system could be as a silver deposit, it's substantial because a lot of these high grades that you see would be called Bonanza grades because they're truly, 7, 8 kilo silver, 9 kilo, 10 kilo silver, 3 kilo silver. These are the kind of grades you would usually find in feeder systems. And I'm not saying here today that we have 16 feeder systems. You're lucky if you have 1 or 2 on a major gold or silver project, but there could be probably 7 or 8 big feeder systems here. We only know what's on surface, what we've been able to walk up and chip off the rocks that are there. There's some really good exposure showing us a very important fact about this project that was missed by the guys who owned it before us and a few others that looked at it. Everyone thought this was a vertical system, which would be still fine if you had the right grade, and the right grade is absolutely there. But we can see a horizontal, or it's kind of like a low angled direction of the silver mineralization that goes underneath some light cover. And what that tells us is that the potential volume of silver there is a lot more than anyone would have originally anticipated. And as it goes out like a pancake, pretty flat, just below the surface with some exposure on the surface where we're sampling this, you look at all these areas that it has this multi-kilo silver as potential feeders. And when we talk about feeder, think about an underground volcano, a small one, or like a chute that comes to surface. And then as it hits a harder rock, it's actually just pooling right underneath the surface. Well, we've seen it in so many areas over such a big area that it kind of makes us feel like we're underestimating a lot of what could be here from the silver perspective. We showed it to a few world experts outside of our immediate technical group. As we like to get on things, we like to have third-party validation to go with things that you're really excited about, so you're not too biased. And the feedback, by some of them who we respect a ton has been, we think you're underestimating what's here, not just in the silver, but in these type of systems, you generally go from silver into gold, and gold will increase in grade underneath the silver. The project sits on one of the most prolific mining belts in the world with predominantly porphyry deposits, which are copper and gold. We do see a large amount of copper. There could be a porphyry nearby, but it wouldn't be uncommon. It'd be very, natural to believe there's a big silver gold deposit on top of or beside a big porphyry. So for us, Carrie, we've had very few days in the project. What we found out so far has gotten better than what we originally thought. I want to say it's in the too good to be true category, until we know more. But at this time, it's where we have to sit. It's just spectacular.
Well, so a little bit of guarded optimism is always in order, because who knows? But one thing's for sure, when you find high grades like this, multi-kilo grades at surface, it had to come from someplace. There's no water, I presume, no rivers running through it. So it's probably been there, and it's just a matter of uncovering it. So, hey, and as if that weren't the only thing going on. So Sombrero, I know everything takes longer than you think, but the converse is that he who waits gets everything. Permitting, you're dealing with governmental bureaucracies, not even your own governmental bureaucracy, but a foreign country, and you're pretty well set up there, but it's taken a bit longer than hoped for.
We gave guidance that we'd get something called a DIA in November. Had we reached that in November, it would have been the fastest DIA this year in Peru. Most of them are taking 9 months on average. December will be 6 months this month since we've started the process. So we're well within it. I think you've eloquently described something that is very important for people to understand. It's not in our direct control. We give the guidance we're given. Is there something wrong? Is the question I get a lot by emails from investors, and absolutely not. Things are progressing well, just a little bit slower than we had anticipated. To give you a real simple fact of what has likely caused a bit of the delay for the last couple of weeks past guidance, one of the people within the government had changed roles. So we have a new person that had to get caught up to speed on one element of 5 different ministers that look at, water, environmental, and everything else. That would be a very natural reason for a few extra weeks before you get an answer. We think we're going to get something here today or by the end of December that's meaningful, and we might get the actual DIA, or we might get some kind of guidance that's a little bit more concrete. And what we strongly believe is that the DIA is achievable in the very near future, and we'll turn a drill at the end of Q1. The worst case scenario is we're weeks behind, not months behind, in when we turn a drill. So I'm not too excited about the delay. I mean, it does not take away the value from the asset and the opportunity. And if anything, we've learned more about our project in the meantime, and it's extremely positive what we're learning about it, and more people are paying attention to it. Another major mining company just asked us about it for the first time, and we presented, and the report card was the exact same as all the other ones we talked to. So, it's a frustrating to be delayed on anything that's this good, but it doesn't change it from being this good, and it's going to be weeks, not months.
When you're in business, and as you get older, more mature, you learn to just check your expectations and just be patient. It's really the hardest thing, and to explain to investors why they need to be patient is even more of a challenge. And yet the stock has been doing pretty darn well and holding up in spite of the skeptics.
So we're up 15% since December 1st. And if you listen to all of our interviews that I've done, we gave guidance to get something called a DIA in November. We're not in absolute control of this. You very eloquently explained that there is other bureaucracies and governments involved, and to ask a more pointed question of, is there something wrong, or what's the delay, or why is this happening? It's not so much a bureaucracy here. I believe the honest answer that's come out of this so far is one of the people that work within the government that were reviewing our file has switched to another person. We don't know why, but they took another role, another job. But this new person had to get up to speed, so we're a few weeks behind schedule. But we do expect resolution on clarity of either receiving the DIA this month or getting some really concrete clarity on how much longer it might take to get it. Our drill plan was to drill in Q1, and we're still planning to drill by the end of Q1. This really hasn't changed much. But if you look at what we've given investors in the last 4 months or 5 months while we've been waiting for this DIA to come together, we brought in this Curibaya project, and we sampled some of the most incredible silver numbers that the silver market or anybody has seen globally on a major mining trend. And, to talk about the arm wave of how exciting it is, and I lose a lot of sleep over, countless multi-kilo samples over such a widespread area, and ask myself, what does this mean? We go to third parties and we look for thoughts and opinions of what this could mean. And, I think the real simple fact you got to take is a couple things. One, you and I can go there and grab an 8-kilo sample of silver off the surface in multiple areas. And I think that's a really, really simple way into a potential silver discovery. The second part, and I've heard this from a few CEOs that have seen the press releases on Curibaya, a few other CEOs in our business, they said Mother Nature just doesn't do this, doesn't deliver this kind of grade over that kind of area. So I think that, delivering a Curibaya, while we ask for patience on our Sombrero drilling, delays do not take away the asset or the value of Sombrero. And now you get the third company. Arguably, we have 3 companies right now in one. We have a Canadian gold company with Homestake Ridge being an advanced asset in BC and the Committee Bay swing in the Arctic. We have Sombrero as a copper gold extension of a world-class copper gold belt or copper belt. And we have several opportunities to deliver tier 1 discoveries within that land position. And now you get the silver gold swing on Curibaya, again, another one of these world-class mining trends. And, I think to offer those 3 opportunities into one company, it's becoming more and more apparent as we learn more about these assets that this is basically 3 companies in one headed towards the bull market. And at some stage, I think when confidence is high enough on all 3 of those, you could divide the company into 3 and reward people individually for each one of those successes. And we have a bull market in front of us for all 3 of those commodities. So it's a dream scenario that's come together. The waiting has exposed a lot more interest on Sombrero. We just presented to another major mining company a few days ago. And, the report card we keep getting is very consistent with what we've gotten from everyone else. So it's exciting. It's frustrating to wait for such good opportunities, but the market conditions have improved considerably. And we now have a Curibaya to be excited about as well. I think the delays that we see in permitting are going to be weeks, not months. So don't expect anything substantial. It's just a bit slower process, but it's all progressing very well.
Yeah, and that's the good news. So it's actually 3 companies in one, Oren. Like you said, 3 opportunities. If 1 out of 3 hits, you're going to do amazingly well. If 2 out of 3 hit, then it's really incredible. And God willing, if all 3 hit, well, then it's off to the races.
There'd be a book and a movie if all 3 hit. and they all have a chance to be fair. But, I try to be as conservative as I can, not just with myself, with investors. And you have it right on. If 1 out of these 3 things resulted in hypothetically a $25 share price, I mean, we would have done our job extremely well and we would have rewarded investors. But the fact that we could look at potentially having 3 things of that caliber in one company on the back of a 7-year bear market going into a bull market. I mean, it's truly a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity that's been well earned by investor patience, by building some of the best shareholders in our registry in the world. And we're very thankful with everyone who is our shareholders. And we think that separates us from a lot of companies. But we've all been rewarded as shareholders with these 3 spectacular opportunities. And next year, we get to drill 2 of them, which will be Sombrero as well as Curibaya. Permitting in Curibaya, this is important, is a lot quicker and a lot more straightforward than Sombrero. It's near the coast in a desert kind of area, 10 kilometers from a power source, which is very close, and from a water source, but it is an arid kind of dry area with less population. So it takes about 4 to 6 months to permit here from the day you file the permit. And right now we're anticipating filing that drill permit at the end of Q1, early Q2 to put us with a drill in hand November, December next year. There's no social permit that tags on. It would just be a drilling permit. And so we think that's going to go quite expeditiously, and it will just sequence on the backside of the initial drilling at Sombrero. So exciting times, really exciting times ahead on all three.
That's great. So you're close to water and to electric. It's desert-like, so it's very low population density. So you just get to move ahead without having to go to extraordinary efforts to make all the parties happy, like you have to in other areas, which, so you can just focus on what it is you do best, which is starting to drill holes in the ground.
Absolutely. And I think the holes are where we're going to get rich. That's what's going to show people the mines there. We've taken a bit of a defensive approach with our financing plans. To date, we've raised about $13 million, which has been a combination of insiders, my personal family, as well as a marquee investor that's been backstopping our company and our previous two companies with a small bridge with him. A lot of people have been perplexed. Why won't we go to market and do a bought deal and we get offered money off? And we're being selective, Kerry, because we think, Sombrero at current state, with the amount of interest that we've seen and from the corporate side, we think, and if it's really the other half of this major mining belt, we think much like our last company, Caden, it would likely have a chance that it gets bid in the exploration stage before you even have a resource, and that would come pretty quick. So we've reserved, the right, and we finance ourselves to look for a marquee investor that could improve our registry considerably and possibly make future successes off drilling and everything else we're talking about much more accretive going forward. The good news is the assets are getting really good reviews everywhere we show them, and the market conditions have improved at the same time. We think the longer road and more difficult road of writing a lot of checks yourselves is going to pay off in spades for us with the type of investors we attract as we go drill these things. And I think all of what I'm talking about happens in the next 2 months. You'll see an investment at some point because we need to finance, but we've also come to some relationships that we think could actually work out the way we hope to. And then we get to go drilling on the backside of getting a permit and, hold on to your seats because I think the commodity market's going to be very complementary to what we do. So the wait will be worth it, is how we feel. And that's the opportunity we have in front of us. Yeah.
And like I started out, he who waits gets everything, the old Confucian proverb. And if you're looking to get everything, then just go over to aurynresources.com, AURYN resources.com. The ticker on the TSX and on the New York Exchange is AUG. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again in the very near future. Ivan, best of luck, and hopefully you'll get a little something extra in your stocking this Christmas, and best wishes for the coming year and the drill programs that will follow.
Thank you so much. And same to you, Kerry. It's a real pleasure to be here today.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.